Jazzcast Pros.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Getting Real with Bossy with Kelly Bush and
Kelly Metras.
And we are going to be joined today by Megan McShane, who is a fascinating individual, as is everybody I feel like we interview. I say, oh, you're fascinating. She is a co-founder, co-owner of Your Best Life Now, and also has worked with probably one of the most well-known inspirational speakers in the world. You will learn that as soon as we get into our interview. But before that, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's been an interesting, busy time. I'm coming off of a really physical, heavy week and going into a really emotionally heavy week.
How fun.
Right? And I loved our conversation with Megan because Your Best Life Now is kind of like global bossy.
It is global bossy. When we first met her for our pre-interview, I was like writing down, this is us where we could be if we had that level of connections and time and space and money.
Yeah, like to buy.
Right, exactly. Going anywhere, honestly, at this point that's not work-related would be amazing.
Yes. And I think we talk about where we're going to be where everybody can find us when we disappear off the face of the earth soon.
Right.
So I did a little digging, and we know the importance of belonging, and we talk about it all the time. But it's actually scientifically proven, and there's some different people out there studying different things and where they rank it. But I think everybody knows about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you don't, it's essentially like a triangle of your needs. And you need that psychic or physiological safety need met at the bottom. And a lot of us that have issues getting to the next levels never got that. And the whole idea is that you have to get each level before you can go up to the next one. And I was really interested to see that essentially belonging comes right after safety. Like you have to be a part of something, a group. And for babies, that's your family and your caretakers. But for adults, it's whatever it is that we're experiencing in our life, right? So we have groups for women who are business leaders. We have Bossy for business owners, but just the importance of finding that group that works for you and making sure that you're heard and that you feel accepted. And I love that Your Best Life Now is doing that for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Belonging and being a part of people, being around people that understand what you're going through and experiencing is so important. I actually had a long conversation with my mother this morning. But as you know, my father passed away last year and she's doing great, but there are moments where she's just like stuck in these levels of grief. And I keep talking to her about groups and how amazing that would be. And she's like, well, I know why I feel the way I feel. I'm like, but it's not about that. It's about being surrounded by people who are going through what you're going through, because we'll talk about it, but our experiences are different and the way we're handling things are different. And we're different. My father, he was her husband.
Yeah. It's completely different.
Right. So where I can kind of understand it's not exactly the same. So I feel like that's not different than business ownership, but still so important to be around people who really are going through it or have gone through it. And I said, Mom, you're going to be able to talk to people who, this is maybe 10 years now and people that it's just very recent, which is going to show you where you're at and maybe that you're further along through this than you think. And I think that's something interesting with Bossy because we often get people who are like, well, I'm brand new, or, oh, I just do this for fun. It's my second job. It's my one-off. It's my side project, my hustle, all those things. You're still a business owner and there's so much you can learn from other people who are in it.
Well, and for those of us that have been doing it forever, I love being around, I call them fresh blood. I love being around the inspired, new, excited business owner because it reminds you of those things. And it brings us back to the current levels of what's out there right now, because sometimes we get kind of stuck in the cycle of doing things the way we've always done them. But one of the things I do love about technology is, I hate to shout out to social media because social media is the devil, but Facebook groups really are amazing. Like I'm in various Facebook groups, and it's a great way to be able to put yourself into a place when we can't always be there physically. to ask questions and just to know that there's people out there experiencing the same thing that you are.
And the anonymity of it is sometimes so important. I love that.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Kelly,
the hosts of Getting Real with Bossy, the real, raw, and honest podcast about small business ownership. With our experience, 9 businesses and over 25 years, we continue to bear it all and share what we wish we had known.
We move past the must be nices and start getting real. Come along as we interview small business owners and get the true story.
Leave with another tool for the next time you feel alone on this journey.
And our guest today is Megan McShane. Hi, Megan.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm going to just do a brief intro because we always feel like you can probably do it better than us, but what a career you've had. So Megan is a dynamic force in personal leadership and development. You spent 13 years with Tony Robbins, which I can't wait to talk about a little bit because I am a child of infomercials. Also, 13 years as a certified yoga coach, owning Grace Yoga. You have degrees in marketing, advertising, public relations, metaphysics, and now, I believe in the pandemic, co-founded Your Best Life Now. So welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
What?
Yeah.
I'm still processing all of, and then did you say like metaphysics, like in the middle of like business and marketing and advertising? Like
it all fits though, doesn't it?
Right.
I feel like I mean, we talk about balance all the time. I know you talk about balance with your groups and all the time, but it's all connected.
It totally is. So it's all about variety.
Absolutely.
well, that is fantastic. Fantastic. Anything that we left out that you want to add in?
No, I mean, that really covers, that's the bubble.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I know you got your start in sales and then at some point connected with Tony Robbins. And I always say, like, people are like, oh, I'm of the generation of, flip phones or phones that hung up. Kelly just did a post the other day about, like, I'm of the generation where you could slam your phone down when you were angry. I am the generation raised on infomercials because we didn't have cable when I was young. When we did have cable, it was like on a little zipper box that you had to actually walk to the TV to do. So if your program ended, there was an infomercial, and oftentimes it was Tony Robbins. And I was like, this man is amazing, like so inspirational. And, I never really knew that my career would get to where it got, but there are times when I do go back to some Tony Robbins philosophies and like, you keep doing what you do, you'll always get what you get.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and you fast forward, and I feel like Tony Robbins was one of the first people to have like a social media presence on that, not like infomercial level, but that like business level, like where people would share videos of him and share speeches and share quotes. And I feel like his name was like one of the first ones to get really popular when social media started blowing up.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did that happen? How did you get connected with Tony Robbins?
Well, it's funny you talk about, the infomercials. I was raised around infomercials, and my dad, he was a college hockey coach, and he always bought the tapes and the cassettes. So when we were kids, like he would play this stuff and we'd be in car rides and whatnot. And then of course, he was such an infomercial person. One Christmas, everyone got tap lights for Christmas, because it was probably like 2000 for $5 or something. But yeah, no, that's really was my introduction to the Tony Robbins world. Both of my parents, I have a great balance because my mom, I think, that's where I got the metaphysics and the spiritual and the yoga side. And then my dad was really driven and worked on systems and outcomes and goals. And so he actually sent my brother and I was like 24, I was living in Miami Beach, and I was working for Cisco Foods, selling to the hotels and restaurants down there. But I always loved doing personal development stuff on the side. Like I'd always go to different like seminars and things. So he sent my brother and I to one of Tony's firewalking events in Chicago. And it was incredible. And while I was there, I was like, wow, how can I be a part of this mission? This is really incredible. So I took, my experience in sales, and it took probably like, 4 months of stalking the right people there. They do not make it easy, to work there, which is great. It's all about determination and grit and accessing the right people. And I started off in sales. So I was selling live events on the phone, and then I was working events, selling different programs. And then from there, I became director of client services and lived out in San Diego for a while and had a team there. And then the last 7 years, I was there as director of Platinum Partnership, which is a networking group of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the world that they would, pay a membership to travel with him and work closely with him.
Wow.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. You must have met so many people.
I did. It was such a blessing. I met so many people from all around the world. I mean, we did 18 events a year. So I was traveling like crazy. Yeah, it was incredible. It was a really incredible experience.
Well, and they say that life is all about taking advantage of the opportunities that you present yourself, right? So like you could have just coasted through and like gone on to the next thing, but it seems like that's not what you did. And you really like grabbed on to all those connections and opportunities that you've gotten throughout your life to grow to the next level.
And it's really incredible. It's like, none of it was planned. It was kind of, I got to a point when I worked there and then the pandemic hit and we weren't traveling and my son was only 1 at the time. I was going through a divorce and I was like, I brought him everywhere with me. And then I'm like, I can't do this. Like I was just burnt out. And it was time. I'd been doing it for so long. And like I said, it was such an incredible experience. But I wanted to focus on my family. I wanted to focus on my son. And I just wanted to slow down. I was so go, 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 go. And so during the pandemic, we were living in Florida. We moved back to Massachusetts, where my family is from. And that's when I opened my yoga studio. And I was doing that. And then one of my former clients reached out to me and said, hey, listen, it's a pandemic. We're not traveling. We want to create this startup. Would you be willing to be a part of it? And I at first was like, oh gosh, I can't travel like that anymore. But he's like, we want you to create it and create it in a way where there's the needs that weren't being met in other peer groups and networking groups. Like this is going to be different. So it was so awesome because it gave me an opportunity to tap into, my creativity and really entrepreneurship and create something, because I was in that industry for so many years that I did see a need for certain things that wasn't available. So that's how YBL, Your Best Life Now, was born.
That's so great. And when we first met with you afterwards, I was like, Kelly, look at my sheet. I'm like, it's bossy, but global. It's like global bossy, because that's really how we started. There was this need we saw, and it wasn't being met by traditional networking groups. There was no such thing as a support group for women business owners, and we had to kind of create our own thing. And it's so great that you were able to be a part of that from the beginning and know that that kind of travel isn't in balance or aligned with your vision and your mission and what you believe in. So what a wonderful thing to be a part of. Can you tell us a little bit about what Your Best Life Now is about?
When we created this, I saw a need for inclusiveness. A lot of different networking groups, it's all about just an individual. It's not about their families or their partners or their business partners or friends and family. So, I would see people go to different events and they'd go by themselves, but then they'd go home and people would be like, what the heck happened to you? And so we really wanted to make something that was inclusive, that was a community. So Your Best Life Now, what it is, it's a networking group of business owners, entrepreneurs. It's a really diverse group. We have anything from, artists and doctors to real estate investors to moms to dentists. It's a really diverse group of people. But the beauty of that is, especially being in business, you don't want to be around the same people who are doing the same thing as you. You want to be around different people, because that's how we grow. What we do is we do 3 live events a year, and our 4 core values are faith, family, fitness, and finance. So we really feel like if those 4 core values are balanced, then your life is pretty balanced. And it's the power of a peer group. So at our different live events, we have different speakers come in. We were just in Sedona last week doing a fitness trip, but it was where physical fitness meets emotional fitness. And our speaker was Lisa Williams, who is a world-known spiritual leader leader and guide, and she was incredible. She did the content piece, and we had a lot of local people from Sedona do some different presentations. So it's about 3 or 4 hours a day of content, but then we go on these incredible excursions and really see where we're at. That was another need that I felt. A lot of these different peer and networking groups, they would go across the world and just sit in convention centers for 20 hours a day and not to experience the beauty around them. So we really dive deep into the community. We do a day, what we call of impact, where we give back to the community. And, in the past, we've helped, we went to Rwanda, we helped some single moms create businesses and to take care of their children. When we were in Santa Fe last year, we helped a group. It's a school for kids who parents are, addicts, and these kids come to this school and learn different arts and things. It's an outlet for them to feel, there's more out there than what they're living in. So we always give back in different communities that we go to as well. We like to leave places better than they were before we got there. We have incredible dining experiences. We have the best production team in the world, I feel. And, basically you just have to pack your bag and get there, and we take care of everything else. Our members also get coaching weekly, whether it's business coaching or personal coaching. And our strategists are really, they walk their talk. So they're not just, so many people now are like, life coaches, and they're really not experienced from what I see. But our strategists have been in business for, 20, 30 years. And a lot of them own their own companies that are, 6, 7, 8 figures. So they actually walk their talk. And the same with our relationship strategists and our health strategists. So we really have a great team of support for all of our members.
All right, sign me up. It's amazing.
So there are so many amazing things on your website that I don't even know which one I want to mention first. But since I already said the word coasting, one of the first things you see is stop coasting and start living.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of goes along with hope is not a strategy. And I love that so much because you often hear people that are just like waiting for the next thing or, and it's yes, some of it just has to happen, but you have to make moves. Right. You have to engage with different things. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to take risks. And even if that's just meeting someone new and you're nervous, right? Like, so I love that because
taking action.
A lot of people are just, waiting.
Yeah. A lot of people, are like, oh, if I just, put it on a vision board, it will happen. But you have to actually take steps to make that happen. And like you said, some of them are really uncomfortable. We are dealing with that with our teenager. It's like, you have to go into a restaurant and look at someone and get a job and talk to them. And it's uncomfortable because teenagers now are like on the phones or behind a screen. And it's just really interesting to see, different ages and different people, how different things are, getting them outside of their comfort zone.
So where did the name Your Best Life come from? Because I got to be honest. So I feel like my introduction to that phrase as an adult really started more during the pandemic when people were posting things on Instagram, and I was like, I'm dying inside. My businesses are dying. Right. I don't know what's going on. And people are like, no, I'm not here. Hiking this mountain, living my best life. And I'm like, I want to give you the finger. So when we first saw it, was like Your Best Life. And then we obviously started reading about you and we're like, that's amazing. And I feel like you've really turned things around for me with that phrase. But how did you guys decide that?
I agree with you. When we were like kind of brainstorming on it, it's kind of like, is this cheesy? It's like living your best, but we actually were like, looked at the foundation of, like I said, our 4 core values and, what we want people to really feel. And, so many people, life is really hard. And it's like, we wanted to create a community where you didn't feel like that, where you were supported by people and that you could, wake up and be like, you know what, this is my best life. And because I'm surrounded by people who care about me and are supporting me. And of course, every day is not going to be our best day, but that's why it's your best.
Right. Well, and all 4 of your pillars are really tough things, right? Like faith is really tough. Family is really tough. Fitness is really tough. Finance is really tough. So it's your best life, and your 4 pillars that are holding it all up are tough things that you really need a community to help you move forward on.
And they are tough, but you know, what else is tough is the opposite, right? Of not having a faith, of being unhealthy, you know, of being, not having healthy relationships, of failing in business and not taking those chances. So, you know, it's like, okay, what hard do you want to choose in life?
Right. And I feel like for me, the fact that living isn't the beginning of that phrase, it's like, right, your best life, because it is work. It's not something that just happens while you're out, frolicking in nature. Like, it is something that you have to actively work on. And I feel like it's wonderful. You've brought it back. Like when we named Bossy, we were like, oh my gosh, people are going to think this is the most ridiculous thing. But we're like, we are taking that word back. We need to acknowledge that we are, in fact, often bossy because we have to be. So,
and it's a powerful word, and it's catchy. Like, people know it. And I think, it just depends. Like, people are always going to have an opinion on something, right? So it's just like, you know what? If you're going to get offended by the name of my company, well, then maybe you aren't the right club. And that's
exactly okay. Right.
We have yet to have someone join that has not been called bossy. So.
Right.
So it worked out. Another thing I like on your website is that you don't have to live anyone else's idea of your best life.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
It's so important.
Think especially as women, we hold ourselves to these false standards and these ideals that don't really exist. And I even see it with my young kids.
Yeah.
I got 4 daughters at home in various ages, and all of them have these ingrained things that I'm constantly trying to break down before they go out into the world of you get to decide what defines you, not other people.
Well, it's so true. And, I was talking with a group of women about this last week about the topic was relationships. And some of the single people were like, I want a relationship like this person and this person. And I was like, I don't want somebody else's life, because it might look really good on the outside, but it's hard, So you got to do what my perfect relationship is not going to be yours, and yours isn't going to be mine. And you got to do what works for you. And I think that's so amazing what you said, Kelly, about your daughters. It's so true. It's like, I think with social media and everything thrown, especially these kids' faces, it's like you're supposed to look a certain way and be a certain way. And it's just like, that is so not right. Especially in business, women in business. It's you got to, now it's like, women shouldn't be feminine anymore. They have to be so ultra masculine to, run a company, where it's like, actually their femininity is our power. That's our power source.
And that external push was there way before social media. Social media just makes it more apparent.
In your face. Right.
I'm still in therapy for all the crap that I let get in my head when I was a kid.
Oh, I'm sure.
Same.
God, there weren't phones and social media.
Right.
You could take a picture.
Right. I was like, magazines and TV were bad enough.
I know. Exactly.
So what can you tell us about something you've learned about being a leader in your journey from your first Tony Robbins experience to today?
I used to always be a people pleaser, and I didn't like conflict. And I would kind of, put my own values aside to please other people or tell them maybe what they wanted to hear. And then as I grew, as I started owning my own companies, I really learned that, not everyone is going to like you, and not everyone is going to agree with your decisions and the way you run a business or the way you run your family. And that's okay. I think at first, because in business, sometimes friendships, relationships, they change. Some of them, last a long time. Some of them are only here for a season. That was hard for me at first, because I was like, oh no, I'm such a lover. I didn't want to let anybody down. But I think as a leader, not everyone's going to like you, and not everyone's going to agree with you. And I think that's okay. I think the main thing is being true to yourself and what you believe in, and what you believe is going to take your business to where it needs to be. Because the people usually who are saying things, they're not the one in the driver's seat, and they're not the ones taking the risk. They're the ones creating chatter and gossip that's really unnecessary.
Right. That's so important too. I think Kelly and I, being in the restaurant world, had to learn that early on. It is impossible to create a restaurant that is going to meet everybody's needs. Like that is just not something that exists. I think like Cheesecake Factory has tried. Like most of us cannot maintain a menu that size, right? So I think we've had to horrible and hard lesson to learn. I remember having to learn it myself, but coming to that realization, like I can't meet everybody's needs. And that's okay. Like my business isn't going to be for everybody. That doesn't make us wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's something we try to talk with our group about a lot. So it's very reassuring to hear that from you as well.
Yeah. And not taking it personal, like I've said, when people want to join different networking and peer groups or, go to different yoga classes, like, okay, that's great. The beauty of this world is there's something for everybody. So it doesn't, have to be under one person. It's like, go with what works for you.
Right.
And find the people, like take that step out and find your community, whether you're getting that need met in a yoga class, right? And you don't feel like you need to go to a business group, or, there's so many different business groups out there that you can join virtually and in person, and finding the one that you feel good in. So you have that support. It's such a lonely world to own your own business. And I think that's men and women combined. I think men just don't talk about it as much. We're a little bit more vocal about our emotions.
Yeah.
But it's a very lonely place.
Yeah. It really is.
You can't go to Thanksgiving and bitch about your boss.
Right.
Well, you could, but.
Yeah, but sometimes he's sitting across the table from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a family business,
the
holiday might turn a different way.
Right.
I'm like, my boss is such a bitch. She doesn't let me ever have off. I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, at this point in my life, we've had our first business for 14 years, Kelly, the same. The majority of the people that we communicate with, hang out with, see professionally and personally are business owners. But even though we have that connection and we have Bossy, it is very lonely because other people who are in your life, sometimes those you've chosen to be in your life, sometimes who you've been born into, they just don't get it. And it's difficult. So finding those connections, finding that village is so important.
It's so true. We just got back, like I said, from Sedona, and the conversations are just different. It's like we have a lot of friends. We have a lot of like connections, but the people, when we go on these trips and in this group, it's like you can have deep, meaningful conversations. You can be yourself. You can be vulnerable. You don't have to put up a front like that everything's so great and perfect and da-da-da-da-da. And it's, they want to help you. So it's not like we're going to sit around and just complain. It's about, okay, how can we solve this? How can we make this better? And I think those are the people you want to be around, are the people that aren't going to let you, they'll listen to you for a little while and talk about, the problems, but they're not going to let you stay in that. They're going to elevate you, and you do the same for others. So, that's really the community that you want to be in.
And that's one of the beauties about being with businesses that aren't exactly like yours. Because it's so important because, there's nothing I love more than when somebody comes into my restaurant and says, what you should do? And I'm like, take your check because you're clearly buying in as a partner. I'm not sure what you want. But it's like the emotion that comes, it's just so ugly. But if it's another business owner, I'm like, okay, you're coming from a place of actually understanding, or maybe you've had the same problem and you have a solution I haven't thought of.
Well, and it's all about the delivery, right? Like, it's like if you can hear the same thing from like 3 different people and it can be totally taken 3 different ways. So
right.
I think if you're coming from a place of, compassion and really wanting to help someone and understanding versus attack and judgment,
right.
it's just, it will be received differently.
And there's just a different mindset for people who own their own business. Whether you started it from scratch or you bought into owning your own business, you constantly have to pivot and create and build and grow. So the way your brain sees a problem is so different than the average person that I love being in a space. It doesn't matter if you own restaurants or anything else, because your brain already looks at things differently.
Yeah, right.
And
it's
having
so
that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always like an innovation mode, kind of.
Yeah, I love community.
It's so important. I never thought I needed it, but it was so lacking in my life before we started this. So That's wonderful. So yoga, do you have time to practice that still?
So
You sound very busy.
Though I'm busy, but I love being busy. Like I used to tell people, I think I thrive in chaos, which is like,
we all do.
right. And
Mhm.
I think it's just, if I have one thing to do a day, I will never get that one thing done. If I have like 20 things, I'll get them all done. My health is important to me. Working out and meditation, that's like my therapy. When I don't do that, when I don't take care of that, then I don't show up as a very good person. So I work out, I weight train 3 days a week, and then I do hot yoga 2 or 3 days a week. So I teach now just on our retreats, just because we do travel a lot. So I haven't found that community where we live yet to teach here, but it might come in time. And if it does, great. If not, I get that fulfillment when we are at retreats.
Right. And it looks like behind you is that your beautiful family in that portrait there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a 6-year-old Max and a 16-year-old Finn, and that's our dog Denise.
I mean, I'm always drawn to the dog, and then I was like, oh wait, there's people behind there as well.
Right, the dog is what sells it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a blended family, and it's beautiful how we all came together from different experiences, but actually similar.
Oh, well, nice. Very good.
So where do you think you fall on the journey of fulfillment that you talk about on your website?
Well, I have to say, I'm really blessed and I have a fulfilled life. That's not to say that some days are really, really hard. I think it's about practicing gratitude too. And, the more you focus on the good things and what you do have versus what you don't have, I always tell people it's so easy to look at what's wrong, but it's also just as easy to look at what's right. And so, when we focus more on the things that we have, that builds and builds and builds. Like I said, of course, I'm going to have off days. We all do. We're human, right? We're I would be lying if I sat here and said, oh, I'm not as enlightened as some people, but I'm doing the best I can. And I think that's what's important, is having a support system behind you. And I think it's actually having some real values and some daily rituals in place that support you in your journey to continue to grow, because this is a fast life, and, it goes by like that. So, it's like the only thing we can take with us is really love and our experiences. So all the other stuff is just kind of going through the motions of being here.
I love that so much. I feel like fulfillment falls into the same category as self-care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where like there's this societal definition that's like perfection.
Yeah.
And it's this like beautiful day, and your every moment of every day is just like living in the clouds. When in reality, it's being able to acknowledge that shit's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take a moment and be like, shit's hard, but the sun's out, and look how beautiful it is, shining on the different places.
Especially for busy moms, it's like self-care.
Breathing.
Like, wow, I got to take a shower today.
Yeah.
Without someone bothering me.
Right.
And it is. It's like the self-care things don't have to be these big grandiose things. It's just, yeah. And like we've said, as women, it's like, we're running businesses, we're running our families, we're doing stuff in our communities, and it's go, 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 go. It's amazing. A woman can do so many things. I read somewhere where a woman has like thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, and men have, maybe a handful. And it's not to compare. It's just so different, Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's even more important to ask for help, because I really, for a long time, never asked for help. I was like, I'll just do it. I can do it. I can do everything. I can do a million things. I don't need your help because I'm going to do it better. And that's not a good place to be. It's good to ask for help, especially if you're, in a marriage, or, your partner wants to help you, and, just like you want to help them. And the same in business. If you have business partners, and, when you need help, like we can't all do everything at once. It's about balance, and asking for help is not a bad thing. It's actually a really beautiful, vulnerable thing.
We see that with the people that we're working with, and I'm curious if you're seeing that in trending with your entrepreneurs that you work with, because it was this like ridiculous badge of honor to be like as stressed out as possible. And I did so many things, and I could see the beauty in the chaos, and I can make these amazing things happen out of these incredibly chaotic moments. Like, I have to stop and ask for help. It's so important. And something we talk about in our group a lot. And is that something you're seeing as well, that women especially, are starting to understand? You don't have to act like, you don't have to be a crazy person all the time.
Well, and that's what it is. You turn into a crazy person. And for me, I had always kind of had that like, go, do a million things. But then when I was working, in the Tony Robbins environment, it was really crazy there too, because we would do these events where it was like 20 hours a day. You would sleep for an hour, you'd run around. And it was this like, go. And like I said, it was a beautiful experience. But then after taking a step back, I was like, wow, like that, it wouldn't have been sustainable. I really see it more so in women. I think a lot of men maybe won't talk about it probably, but with women, I just think and I also think men are better at, if they're hungry, they'll stop and eat a meal and relax. Where a woman's like, I got to get the kids. I got to do this. I got to go pay this or that or walk the dog. And it's just different. We put everyone before ourselves usually. So I do notice it in women. And that's why I think these groups, and especially what you guys are doing, it's so important to be surrounded by other women who can support you with that, and to be like, okay, you got to chill. Yeah. Because you're going to have a breakdown. I mean, we've all been there when we're like, I'm fried.
Yeah.
Well, and some of us like to feel fulfilled by doing lots of amazing things. And you can't accomplish all of them if you don't have help.
No, because most people I see that do that, they end up moving into the martyr or victim role, where it's like, I did all this and I did all that. And it's like, well, no one actually even asked you to.
Right. And neither of those are going to feel like there's no end game with either of those roles. Like, you're never going to reach a place where you feel satisfied. And
no, it's actually just like a crazy 8 of up and down, up and down.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not I was going to say it's a circle, but it's not. It's exactly that. It is a crazy 8.
Right.
I'm designing a t-shirt for this conversation right now with a crazy 8. Yes, exactly.
I love that. I'm going to write it down.
Oh my gosh. So you've been all over the world. I like to think someday my life will let me also travel. Is there any place that you've been to that you're like, this gave me such a feeling of peace? Or there's just one place as a busy mom, person, wife, entrepreneur you really have to check out? Is there a place that you can tell us?
I will say, I've been to many places, and every place is so different. But I will say, especially, there is a domestic place. This is where I just got back from, is Sedona. And it's domestic. It's easy to get to. You don't have to travel far. And there it's like, it's a vortex. So you pull in there, and your energy, you're like, whoa. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, everyone was just like, do you feel this? Like, there's such a sense of peace and calmness and serenity. And you're just like, for a week, it was just like, we were like floating almost. It was bizarre. It was nuts, but it was so beautiful. So I would say, for people who can't, travel international or don't have time to do a big trip, you could do a long weekend there and leave there. And then the hiking there was beautiful, the creeks and the water. And it was just a beautiful, serene place to really recharge.
That's exactly the answer I was looking for. So that's perfect. I am thinking of planning our bossy retreats there eventually.
If we disappear,
we're in Sedona.
Exactly. You got sucked into the vortex. I know. I was like, I could live here. We'll stay here.
All right, Megan, tell us, what's the next big trip for your best life?
Yeah, so we are headed to Italy in September 8th to the 13th for a faith trip. So we will be going to Rome for a few days. Then we will be taking a high-speed train to the Amalfi Coast and staying in Sorrento. And the incredible James Twyman, who wrote the book, The Moses Code, will be leading us on this journey. So if anyone is interested, you can reach out to me directly or on our social handles. And we also have a new online program for business owners that is actually going to be launched. We have a webinar coming up on June 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we are launching the program June 26th. It is called the Business Blueprint Accelerator. So it's for business owners who are looking for some more certainty or having challenging times making decisions. Their personal life is a little messy, which is affecting their business. They are in operator mode and they really need to get into owner mode, where they feel like right now that the business won't survive without them there 24/7. So if that's anyone listening, you're interested, like I said, we will have a webinar and we'll post it on our social handles, and that will be June 12th for more information.
I don't know how that doesn't include everybody. Honestly, I'm like, yep, check. And I don't know any business owner that would not fall in any of those categories. So do you need to be a member of Your Best Life Now, or that's separate?
Be a member. So this is a different program we're doing for business owners that, Your Best Life, they don't have the time now to travel or do other things. So this is a different program to accelerate their business to the next level where it needs to be. So we'll be doing, there's a lot of strategy behind it. And then there'll also be sessions on mindfulness and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how do we find you?
So you can find us on Instagram at yourbestlife.now, or myself, I'm at Megan McShane -99. And then our website is YBLNow, which is spelled out NOW.com.
Well, I expect you to be getting a lot of hits because I'm interested.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anytime, let me know, you guys. And we also have every Thursday from 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern time, we have what we call speaker spotlights. And I invite you guys and your listeners, if you want to come on for free, we typically have a speaker come on based off family, faith, fitness, and finance, an expert, and talk about an hour about different topics. So you guys can come on as my guest anytime.
Oh, that's wonderful. We meet on Thursday, so that's perfect.
Oh, good. Yeah. Awesome.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And this is a second take for anybody who doesn't know, because we were having all of this technical issues before, but that is part of business life. That's part of doing what we do. Sometimes we have to pivot and reschedule. So we're very grateful that you were able to do that, because it's just been a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thanks for having me. And thanks so much for what you guys are doing in your community as well. So it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fascinating. I know that you always say that.
I do. But it always is.
It is. And I'm out. I'm out. We're going.
Yeah.
We're leaving town.
Absolutely. Even just to be able to go on those Thursday calls, I think is something I'm definitely going to utilize. But we talk about it all the time when we try to do events and conferences, that getting away from your business is the best way to work on your business.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And not in your house.
Right.
That doesn't, well, it might work for some people.
Right. It does not work for me, because I know
I'm like, if you could see beyond.
Don't even look. I need blinders. I need like a racehorse. I need blinders.
Because I can see everything outside my camera screen right now, which is just a hot mess. But yeah, so I know we say this all the time for people, like, you have to find your people, and maybe it's bossy, maybe it's not, but finding the group that makes you feel like you're a part of something, and to not be scared to try. I feel like that imposter syndrome sneaks in when it comes to membership. And, when I joined the chamber, I'm like, oh, I'm just a restaurant. Well, no,
right.
It's a long-standing business in Rochester that needs support, so acknowledging what it is and giving it a try.
Right. And if it's about money, any good business is not going to charge you money to get to know them.
Yes.
Or any good group is not going to charge you money to get to know them.
Yeah.
And it's worthwhile. And then you can walk away if it's not for you. I've done that with therapists before. I'm like, well, I'm going to give you a chance. And some of them just don't work.
Yes.
Not everything is going to meet your needs. Not anything is going to meet all of your needs. So just find the one that meets most of them.
Yeah. And you can join different things for different reasons. It's kind of like friends. We have different friends for different reasons. They bring something different into our lives and support us in different ways. So yeah, find a group, belong.
Agreed. All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Be bold.
Be brave.
Be the boss.